If there would be one thing that I would be allowed to change, looking back at myself being 15, it would be front loading. I define front loading as taking on my shoulders problems and challenges that otherwise my future self would have. So what you basically do is you go and take away the landmines into which your future self would otherwise bump, to ensure that his or her life path is as smooth as it can be. Imagine there is a car, and this car is about to drive through the jungle. The road is full with trees, stones, and even landmines from a past war, okay? And front loading would mean to assign a team that will build the road, that will find and disarm the landmines and thus ensure that the car can drive safely and fast through the jungle, And to better understand what landmines can blow you up, I'll tell you a bit more about the landmines that blew up on my way. So there is a saying that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and you likely heard about that. And I would say this saying also applies to the goals that you set, and the scale of how big you think, So those are also the average of the 5 people who you spend the most time with. And therefore, once you get into an environment, for example, like a very good university, you realize how limited you were in your thinking before, Once you are in an environment like this, you adjust your goals and you realize that you are becoming a new average of new people, And thus, you don't even know what goals you could arrive at setting for yourself, given the right environment. And I repeat this one more time because this is very important. Right now, you don't even know what goals you could arrive at setting for yourself, given the right environment. Okay? This is why I faced landmines that blew my car off, for example, or my car up. So in school, for example, I did not think that I would need top grades, I was not interested in the subjects that we had, and I wasn't even looking at trying to find the interesting. This is when basically the first landmine blew up, okay? Because normally, through such a mindset, there is no access to a top university and no scholarships for example, abroad studies. Because usually you have to show that you are, basically kind of worthy of that. Why should they give this opportunity to you and not to someone else who is maybe more ambitious than you, Fortunately, I still got into a very good university in Germany, but then the next landmine blew up. I did not know how to study effectively and efficiently, and while I was trying to figure out how to do that, my grades suffered immensely. And after an internship that I did during my studies at a technology company, I got the desire to join one of the world's leading consulting companies to be a better founder, later down the line, to be able to lead a company in a better way. And then another landmine blew up. I did not know that I would set myself such a goal in the past, and thus was unprepared for the option that I would do so. So the landmine blew up because usually very good grades are an important criterion for these top consultancies, which I did not have. Again, a landmine blew up my desires. The future I wish for you is that no landmines blow off your goals. It doesn't mean that I think that you shouldn't have any challenges or so. There is a difference, okay? Whether you are driving on a road with your car And from time to time, you basically have to stop and get out of the car and clean the way from some tree branches, for example, or unknown landmines left and right are detonating and exploding and breaking your car down. So the ride through the jungle takes much, much longer than necessary. Yeah, this is what we are trying to avoid through front loading. And this is why this is such a big regret for me, because now my route through the jungle, I still have the same goals, will just take me way longer. Yeah. Now, how do you avoid these landmines? Well, ideally through disarming them before the car drives the road on which they are on. This is how you do that. How does it work practically, like in real life now, because this was an abstract, an example. Yeah? So I would say through the following mindsets, which align with the prior explained concept of front loading. Yeah. So the first mindset is optionality is important. Yeah. You don't know how your thinking will change once you will change environments. And you don't know what interests you might develop in the future. Trust me when I say that. You might change so strongly. So you should anticipate change. Yeah, you should already see it coming, accept it as a likely fact that you likely will change, and be prepared in a way, yeah, that doors that you did not even know existed are not closed to you from the start. Again, I repeat that because this is very important. Yeah, you should anticipate change and be prepared in a way that doors that you did not even know existed, yeah, are not close to you from the start. Please write that down, this sentence, because this is very, very important for your future. And obtaining top grades in school, for example, and in university definitely helps with that, because usually, like for very awesome opportunities, these things are kind of required, or at least might separate you from the people who don't have them, and thus provide you a competitive advantage. Yeah, so take that seriously. Another thing that is helpful to basically stand out and open up options to you is doing extracurriculars in school. Yeah, like getting involved at an association, ideally one that helps others, for example, through distributing food to homeless people. This was basically also something that helped me to get into my university in the end, because I had different extracurricular activities during my time in school, and they, my university, were also giving basically points for that things, which in the end allowed me to get in to a large extent. Yeah, so if you are going to decide to study at university, if you make this decision, yeah, that you're going to do so, don't choose generic degrees like business. This is at least my opinion. Rather, I would recommend to choose degrees that are more specialized, yeah, or mixed degrees. So specialized degrees are like medicine, computer science, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, stuff like that. Okay, psychology, yeah, and mixed degrees are things like computer science and management, engineering and management. What else? Management and psychology, yeah. Because if you at some point say, hey, I want to work in business, you are able to do so with a specialized degree, for example, but never vice versa. So there are doctors, for example, that are doing management work, while they can't be like a person who does management work, like with a business degree, and will have the understanding or the ability to perform the work of a doctor. Okay, and since you might change and you don't 100% know where you will end up, I mean, I encourage strongly also in my life setup course to have a vision, yeah, early on, and try to have some kind of plan that you're pursuing. But I'm just saying that through new impulses and new information and feedback from reality, and yeah, basically from reality, your plans might adjust, and thus optionality also in your degree, in regard of what options you can pursue, is very important. Okay, so another thing that is another mindset that you should have, yeah, to be able to front load very well, is to anticipate a lack of time in the future, yeah, and front load as much as you can to now. So in the future, you can rather focus on maintenance than building things from zero, yeah, because the effort that you have to put into goals is often not linear, but rather gets less and less with time. And this is the difference between maintaining, yeah, and building something from zero, yeah. A great example for that actually is the gym, yeah. So from my knowledge, to grow muscle, you need to invest around 16 to 20 sets per muscle group, yeah. But for maintenance, it's around 10, as far as I know. So this is a very important mindset. And how do we apply it to real world examples? So concretely, I would say it makes sense to look out for a long-term partner early, yeah. Especially if you at some point want to have a family, and this is important to you, like it is for me. I mean, it's very important to have a wonderful family in the future, and this is why I'm saying that. Yeah, if it is important for you as well, in my opinion, it makes a lot of sense to look out for a long-term partner early. In your teens, yeah, I mean, rather likely in your late teens, like 17, 18, whatever, or in your early 20s, yeah, because then when you start to pursue your ambitious goals, for example, you decide, yeah, I want to build a company or pursue some ambitious career, yeah, you won't have the headache, yeah, that you still have to find a partner, because it is, it will occupy your brain to find a partner. Yeah, you have to date, you have to think a lot about the conversations, and also of course try to win the person. Yeah, try to make a very good impression and stuff like that. I mean, of course, this will still be you will also have to put in effort in a relationship. But I would say that once you are in a relationship, especially for several years, the effort, it doesn't go down, but it changes. It is much easier to navigate the relationship, I would say, than it is in the beginning. This is at least my hypothesis, yeah? And thus, if you start to pursue your ambitious goals, you won't have the headache that you still will have to find a partner, and rather you will be able to focus on smoothly maintaining the relationship, yeah? And of course, please don't get me wrong, you still should have high standards, yeah, for the partner. And if you don't find the right partner in your teens or in your 20s, don't worry, okay? I'm rather saying that you should think long-term in this regard, ideally starting early on, okay? So this also means, in my opinion, that you should build an aesthetic body, yeah, early. If this appeals to you, yeah, I'm not going to force you to do that, but I think it's a good thing as a young man to build an aesthetic body. It teaches you a lot. It makes you disciplined. It's healthy, I would say, if you do it the right way. And I would say that it makes sense to build an aesthetic body early on, because then when you will have the lack of time, yeah, I'm saying that you should anticipate it now. If you will have the lack of time later, you won't have to bulk anymore or train long in the gym. You can rather focus on shorter workouts and eat normally, which is way easier, compatible, yeah, with a busy lifestyle. Yeah. Through your front loading, you basically save your future self problems in this regard. Yeah. Because your future self can just focus on short workouts rather than, I know, counting calories so much and bulking and stuff, because it's not easy to bulk. Yeah. It's quite uncomfortable, I would say. And you can save that. You can save these issues. You can save your future self these issues, so your future self can focus on what is really important, like your ambitious goals. Yeah. Another thing, and this is one of the most important things I would say, that is about to be front loaded, or that I recommend to front load. Yeah, is get clarity on your career path early, because this is a huge landmine that might blow you up. And I might even do a separate video on this one, because it's like very huge and can cost you years. Sometimes depends on what you do, maybe even a decade. Yeah. So get clarity early on your career path, and basically I would say get clarity on paths that you feel most drawn to and feel the most curious about. I think you can narrow this down quite nicely, and ideally try them out in a low investment way, like a internship, watching some lectures on this subject online, or trying to do a simple project in this area, maybe talking to some people who are in this area, for example, through creating a LinkedIn account and writing some people. So doing things that will either confirm or reject, yeah, your assumption in regard of whether this could be an interesting path for you. Yeah. Try to really understand what options are available on the career landscape, yeah, for you, and narrow them down, again, based on where you feel the most drawn to or the most curious about, and which you find the most appealing, and then test them. Yeah. Because the point is that if you decide to change career paths in your mid-20s or even later, this will be a huge landmine that will blow up, because it will make your life much more difficult and will likely even cost you a lot of extra money, and thus avoid it. Avoid it. I'm not saying that, for example, everybody should know exactly what they're going to do in high school. Again, I encourage, also in my live setup course, I encourage to have a plan and a vision, and I also give tools to create that. But I'm also saying, or I'm speaking about hypotheses. Yeah, the things that you think that you will like so much are hypotheses. And what if, for example, you start a degree and you see, oh, actually I don't enjoy it that much, and actually you do an internship and you see, oh no, I actually don't enjoy it that much. It's not a problem to change. This is what I'm saying. It's totally fine to change and try something else. Then to try something else. Maybe you see, oh no, it's actually also not that nice. Change again. Of course, it will take some time. You will get a bit older, but this is totally fine in the beginning of your 20s. What is more of a problem is if you pursue like a degree from the beginning to the end, yeah, especially like if you do the bachelor's and the master's, and then you say you'll change. I mean, being 23, 24, it's okay, but 25, 26, and then change to a completely new area, I would say it's something that you should rather avoid, because again, I would describe it as a landmine that will blow up your life in a way, because it will require, again, a huge time investment, maybe even a huge monetary investment. Thus, I would really recommend rather really focusing on finding what you find the most exciting early on, test it out, and then pursue it fully. Yeah. And then I think you will avoid this landmine, especially if you consider the mindset of optionality that I have described before. You will have cool options open anyway, even if you change your mind already after completing the degree, and that is so cool. Yeah, because for example, you're a doctor and then you decide, yeah, I want to go into diplomacy. You can do so. Yeah, it's awesome if you can do things like that and they aren't closed. Yeah, so this is why I'm talking about all these mindsets. So, and of course, there are more examples of things that you should front load. And I have an extra module on front loading and many different examples of people who practiced front loading, yeah, and are pursuing very cool paths themselves that you can learn from in my life setup course. So if you're interested in me talking about subjects like these, check out the life setup, the operating system course, which aims at helping you with a transformation from a student who is unclear and unintentional about his or her future and wastes the opportunity to build a strong foundation for the time after school, to a student who thinks long term, sets clear and ambitious career goals, and goes towards them day by day. Check out the first link in the description if you're interested in that. And I hope that you understood why front loading is so important, and you also see why this was such a, or is a big regret of mine that I didn't front load. And because really it influenced my life negatively, I would say, in many ways. I described you the landmines that blew up, that made my life more difficult. Of course, one can now say, yeah, but I grew through that. And of course, this is true. I grew through that, and I'm grateful that I grew through that. But what we are trying to do is to avoid landmines that are not necessary, because many of these landmines are not necessary. If you have the right mindset early on, you can avoid many of them and grow still and have much more joy along the path, because it's way smoother. Yeah, this is why I'm making also this video to you now. This is basically about it. I can tell you that you will come to a point in time, I would say around your mid-20s, also where I'm at right now, where you just want your life to move smoothly forward, to your desired destinations in front of you, and you don't want to take extra long routes, and you don't want your car, metaphorically speaking, breaking down often. So taking on your shoulders the problems and the challenges that your future self would otherwise have, I would say, will definitely help to avoid landmines blowing up your car. See you in the next video. Goodbye.